microphone there, and I believe if you just tap it,
Nope.
Oh, no.
Turn on green. Yep, it's already on, so just tap the button on the
yeah, just tap the button on the bottom.
and the light should
There you go.
You are
Good?
live.
Yeah.
All right, all right.
If you're-
First timer here,
If
sorry.
that light is green,
It
you're
is,
on.
it is.
Okay.
All right, so
There you
good
go.
evening, Board, Coles Neck Township. Thank you for having me back this evening. I think it's been almost 9 months. So we've made some progress, and we're here to give you an update on the Energy Savings Improvement Program, the district led by Dr. Garibay, Vince, and Mr. Moretta, and as well as the board to implement here at the schools. So I'm going to touch of kind of what we're doing, what we've done, and really just give you an overview. So I use a lot of acronyms with DCO Energy, so that's the company, ECM, Energy Conservation Measure, so that means just really just the upgrades we're installing. So I'm going to touch on each one briefly, but you can see each school has its own ECM. If it's highlighted with a green background and a purple check mark, that means we are installing it or it is installed currently. Jumping into just some key components. So the way ESIP works is the energy savings cover the cost over 15 to 20 years. There's different fiscal years that we have to work with Mr. Marasco on and the board to make sure the energy savings cover the cost. The most important part is that based on our projections initially and the construction progress we made, that the energy savings projection should exceed what we did project initially. So that's on track, which is of utmost importance to us. The next thing we want to highlight is you probably noticed some changes. Obviously, probably, hopefully, some kids or maybe some students had to wear a jacket in the building because the air conditioning's on. I think everybody's happiest about that. But the brighter lights, you can see that. That's probably what you see. Each light will have a 10-year warranty. So if Nick or Mr. Marasco or Dr. Garibay, you should not have to really purchase a light. The lights that are installed now have a 10-year warranty. So for operational purposes, from a facilities management, fiscal standpoint, it'll save you, obviously, funds moving forward. Approximately 60% of all flat roofs will have a 16-year warranty. So we're working, and that's going to be wherever the solar panels are going to be installed. So they're not installed currently, but that is in progress, and I'll have a brief update on that a little bit. So 60% of your flat roofs will have that warranty. There will be solar going on the primary pitched roofs, but those are well within the warranty period and the life expectancy. And obviously, right, ESIP energy savings, we're adding cooling to 2 buildings. What does that mean? So the solar is going to cover a little bit more than 50% of that new electric load. The rate we got here for about a 1.5 megawatt system is a little over 2 cents. That will escalate a little bit as part of the RFP process and the evaluation we did. But again, 2 cents from the grid. So go home, check your JCP&L bill, and see where you're at. You're probably, like the school, the grid rate you're paying was 12 to 14 cents. So that's a major, major reduction and a really great sustainable initiative embarked on for the district. Now we'll touch on some pictures. Pictures kind of say 1,000 words. I do have the construction start and when it's completed by. Try to hit as many schools, every school, as many areas as I could in pictures. Special shout out to Rob Dale, our construction manager, who's here with us tonight, who helped me get some of those. So you can see the different classrooms and the brightness when you walk into the schools, improving the learning environment for your students. Again, we're here to be an extension of the district. Oh yeah, so the code is 50-foot candles at the desk, and we did meet that requirement, which is, from a facilities director standpoint, really what's important, and obviously for learning for the students and education. Next is the energy management system. So some of this you won't see. You'll see the lights. You'll see some solar panels. But from a facilities management standpoint, to have each piece of equipment on the energy management system, you're able to go in. So this is what the dashboard looks like. So the contractor that does the energy management system here is Jersey State Controls, based locally in Monmouth County. So it tells the temperature. So if there's a problem and Mr. Marasco gets a call from a teacher in the primary school, room 102, says my classroom's usually it's 75 degrees. We can call Mr. Moretta, say, no, it says it's 72 degrees, you're within the set points. So again, giving control, if there's a problem, Nick or whoever has access to it will be alerted to any of the temperatures in the classroom. Again, just managing it appropriately. Being able to change the nighttime setback so you don't have air conditioning running in the summer when no one's in the buildings. So just different control strategies to make sure that buildings are not overcooled or overheated, and then optimizing the comfort level for the students and the teachers and staff. Next is, I think, and really, I think Dr. Garibay, Vince, and Nick, I think the main part of this project and what everybody wants to talk about is the first part of the air conditioning is the univentilator replacements. So you can see here, this is our director of implementation. That's where the old univentilator was. That's what it looks like with the new univent. And this is the variable refrigerant flow system, the condensing unit that's outside that then connects to that univentilator to provide cooling and heating to the classrooms. So again, hopefully your students and the students have felt that impact. Of course, it's the hottest summer we've ever had, and luckily kind of has been a little cooler this fall. I don't know. And then, again, the warranty stuff we like to talk about, not something you'll really see or hopefully you don't have to see on the roofs. So you can see there's a little gray part here. So that's really the first coat that goes on of the roof coating. Then you see it's bright white. So the reason it's white is for reflectivity, bounces the sunlight off. So there's energy reasons behind that. But again, anywhere that we're putting solar panels, where there's going to be solar panels for 15 years, we put a roof warranty that will be there for 16 years. So there should be no pointing fingers of saying it's a roof warranty, it's a solar problem, again, to alleviate that stress for the district. And then just not having to really be responsible financially for fixing a roof. These are some smaller miscellaneous ECMs. So the first one is the pipe and valve insulation. You can really see there, it's really the gray, the blankets. So the pipe fitters and the insulators do a really nice job of insulating the pipes, but sometimes there's other areas where you can save more energy. Excuse me, again, that's areas you probably won't see in a boiler room. We do building envelope improvements, so door sweeps, attic insulation, things you may not notice or pick up on, but when there's gaps in doors, right? When it gets hot out, doors expand, it's cold, they contract. So we want to keep the heat in during heating season, cold air during cooling season, and that's how we make it more energy efficient. Again, things you might not see. The E-temp sensors are in the walk-in freezers and other standing refrigerators. So what they do is they make so when you have a walk-in freezer, there's like a air conditioning condensing unit tied to it, and it runs. So every time the hot air is coming in from the kitchen, the staff opens the door, that condensing unit runs using energy. This takes the temperature of the food, so it's not running as frequently. That's where you get the energy savings from.
And just relative, we also, there's a small change order to put in sensors that will send us notification in case the temperature spikes in the refrigerator. So in the heart of the summer, if we have an issue with one of the units, we won't have to wait till next morning to find out. We'll actually get a notification right away if the temperature spikes again in the refrigerator or freezer.
No, it's a great point. One thing we met with the district administration last week, so part of our philosophy as a company is we always want to try to make an impact as much as we can, as much as the district wants us to. So we do something called competitive edge. We work on different educational components. We've talked about, engaging maybe Dr. Yerbay said there may be some architect engineer parents in the town, or other ways we can just include students and educate them on what's like the solar panels up there. That's cool. I've seen them everywhere. But just teach them about it. Just offer them the idea and the conceptual thoughts of, everything's becoming a little more energy efficient. Just teach them about what this project did and how it impacts their everyday. So we're working through that, and I think we're coming in October 15th to talk a little bit more. And then this is just the overall energy conservation measure progress, our construction progress. So solar, you should see start coming on soon, installed in October. Energy management system, so that the reason it's not 100% is because if you go down to this last one, so that's the rest of the air conditioning. There's some package units at the two schools, elementary school, middle school, that we still have to install. So those are coming in, we're moving forward, and should be installed shortly there, starting at the end of this year, and as soon as possible, get those up and running. Rooftop units. Sorry, yeah, rooftop units. Yeah, sorry. R2, so I say package is just heating and cooling in one unit. But different, exactly right. For sure. And then retro commissioning is just optimizing the facility, everything we did not touch, fixing pain points of different mechanical equipment, building, just fixing, if a window's broken, things like that, just making it more energy efficient.
That's all built into the budget, correct?
Correct. Yes, this is all in the budget already. And then just to kind of highlight, so we were awarded December of '22. Just kind of going back, I know it's kind of a pain just to show you just where we started, there was an RFP process before, so it's been quite some time, it was 2 years coming. So, yeah, so you can see everything that, Vince and Mary Jane and Nick have taken us through. So it's been awesome to work with the team here, just making it as seamless as possible with the district.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. So would you be comfortable if, I open it up, obviously, to the board to ask questions, and then if I also open it up to the public to ask you any questions?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, all right. So does anyone from the board have any questions? No? All right. Does anyone in the public have any questions for Mr. Burns? All right. Well, so much for that. This presentation will be on our website. So if some of those smaller print slides, you didn't quite get them, and for anyone who's listening to the live stream at home, that will be on our website. So you will be able to go through this at your own leisure on a quiet evening and review all of that information. Thank you so much. We appreciate that update. All right, so you will note on the agenda this evening, we have 2 communications worth noting. And that brings me to my report of the president. If I can turn up the light on the phone so I can see. There we go. All right, so good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Board of Education meeting. I hope that the start of the new school year has been a success and smooth for all of our students, our teachers, our staff, and all of our families. The energy that a new school year brings is very refreshing, and I think I speak for the board when I say that when we get back into the school year after a summer, this is kind of why we're all here. It's for the school year, the start of opening up the doors, welcoming our students and our families into our building. So it's a nice reminder for the important work that we do here as a board. Back before the school year started, I had the honor of attending the PTO-sponsored welcome breakfast for the district's teacher and staff. It was a really wonderful experience for myself, so thank you for inviting me, Mary Jane. It's not often that I think anyone in this district or our community gets to see all of our staff, our teachers, our transportation workers, our custodians, our SLEO3s, our administrators, our support staff. I'm sure I'm missing someone. That room was packed, and it was really wonderful to see everyone and be able to address them. So it was very overwhelming in a lot of ways, but in a good way. But it really did make me appreciate the dedication that each one of those individuals puts in to making our district what it is and putting everything into it for our students in this district. So I want to express my sincere gratitude to the PTO for their generosity and their efforts in putting that event together. I know they do that every year, and it's really wonderful. I'd also like to thank everyone who attended or watched our last board meeting. It was a lengthy one, and it was structured that way because we are now, as it was noted, a committee of the whole. And I want to especially express my gratitude to anyone who physically stayed with us into the end, because again, it was lengthy, as well as our administrative staff that stayed so that they could answer questions and be here for the board to do that, and their active participation. I know that those meetings can be lengthy, and I want to reassure the public that we are working to help streamline those meetings so that they are efficient moving forward. So your patience during that process is greatly appreciated. As a board, we are all aware that on October 15th, members of our Buildings, Ground Safety, and Security Committee are scheduled to meet with our new Chief of Police, Dan DeVito. If any board members have any questions, concerns, or items that they would like addressed during that meeting, please reach out to myself as well as Kevin so that we can have that prepared in advance of meeting with Dan DeVito. Kevin, just as a reminder, formal agenda should be sent out to the full board, as well as following, prior to that meeting, as well as following the meeting, we should have meeting minutes prepared in a timely manner to be in compliance with our bylaws. And then, just so that the public is aware, a formal report out on that meeting will take place, but again, because we're operating as a committee of the whole, that will happen at the first meeting in November, because that will be our next CAL meeting, our next committee of the whole meeting. So that's when we will be doing a verbal report out on that meeting for everyone to be brought up to speed for what took place. So while this particular meeting will remain scheduled, I do want to clarify both for the board and for the public that we are no longer meeting in small committees. And all future meetings with any community members should be scheduled to take place during our committee of a whole meetings, which in theory should be taking place as our first meeting of the month. That will ensure that full participation from our full board will be able to take place so that we are all aware of what's taking place. If we have any questions, we can address them at that time. Operating this way also provides full transparency to our community, and it aligns with how the board should operate as a committee of a whole. I want to conclude, after saying all of that, that we switched to a committee of a whole back in January. That was what our board majority decided to switch to. And so this is the structure that will be taking place moving forward. So our first committee meeting of the month will be, our first board meeting of the month will be our committee of a whole meeting. Ideally, no formal action will be taken at those meetings. Again, unless, like I stated last meeting, there may be some necessary personnel items or finance items that need to be addressed, which they will. But ideally, we will not be taking formal action. And then our second meeting of the month, which we are in today, will be our RAM meeting, our regular agenda meeting. And that is where we will be taking all of our action. And in theory, these meetings should be quicker, bearing any presentations. So unless there is a motion and a move to go back to our committee structure, that is how we will be operating moving forward. I welcome any questions from not only the board, but as well as from the community. Again, when we move into public comment, feel free to ask any questions regarding that. Or again, you also know how to reach us via online through our email chain. But again, I do want to just thank everyone for their patience and their participation in this process. I think that so far it really shows the dedication that not only our board members have, but also our entire district community in having the patience to move forward with this new process so that we can do what's best for our community, our district, and our students. And with that, that concludes my president's report. Thank you. All right, so you will notice that we did strike out our committee reports. That is in keeping of the spirit of this new structure. There should be no committee reports because our committee should not be meeting. But we will touch base with our board member liaisons. So Brenna and Allison, do you have anything for the Parent Advisory Committee?
The form is still open until the end of this week to sign up for this new wave of the Parent Advisory Committee. We have a lot of submissions already. I believe it's over 40 already, which is better than last year, which is really exciting. Once that closes, we'll try to kind of separate everybody into groups like we did last year and schedule our first meetings. So we should have more information on that early next week, hopefully, middle of the week. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Amy Dimes, anything for the PTO?
I do. Spiritware is reopened, so they closed it at the beginning of the school year. They've reopened it until September 30th. Membership drive is still going on until October 2nd. Again, as a reminder, all board members can sign up under your board email if you would like, if you don't have children in the district. And I do encourage everyone to become a member. That drive is until October 2nd, but truly you could become a member at any time. But this allows you to sign up for anything that you would like to volunteer for or chair for. Trunk or Treat is October 26th, 1 to 3 at Bucks Mills. That's always a really fun time. They're bringing back Harlem Wizards on November 18th. We were just speaking about that, how much fun it is, and hope to see everyone there. December 7th, over at the primary school, will be Frosties, and my favorite, the Gala. It's March 27th this year, and it'll be again at Southgate Manor.
Thank you. I had no idea that the gala was your favorite. So I appreciate you sharing that. The Township Committee, that is myself. So we do have the National Night Out, which, as I continue to report out, was rescheduled to September 28th from 4 to 7 p.m. And that will be followed by the Family Movie Night and Camp Out. So the National Night Out is at Bucks Mills Park, and the National Night Out is at Bucks Mills Park, and the Family Movie Night and Camp Out is at Town Hall. And I was going to mention the Trunk or Treat, but Amy already did that. So that is all that I have for Township Committee. Oh, I don't know what movie. I apologize. I will find out. And we don't have another meeting until then, but I'll find out and I will message everyone here. Kevin, do you have anything for Colts Night? Oh, what's that? Your microphone. There you go. There you go.
Thank you, Amy. And next
Technical support.
senior citizen meeting is October 2nd at the Close-Neck Inn. I don't know if it's going to open or not. 11 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, it is, isn't it? It is open, right? We
Is it?
found out. It is, the restaurant is not open, but the banquet hall is? Is that correct? That's correct information. Yes.
I guess they're good for their
so, yeah.
their luncheon in there.
Yeah.
They have a couple trips coming up. They have the Hudson River Fall Foliage Tour on October 14th. They had the Fiddler on the Roof, which is on November 7th. They're going to Lancaster, Pennsylvania on November 19th, overnight theater trip. And their Christmas party's at the Molly Pitcher Inn on December 16th. I thought, how can we engage our senior citizens who are coming to school events? Since they're home during the day, they're retired. Just a thought. Inviting them to our musicals, our plays, our band events, our choir events. I think it'd be a great gesture on a board's, on a
So
board
we
of
did-
education.
We did have the newsletter.
Yeah. They used to come. They used to come for elections, showing up, and they used to come. Used to have their meetings here years ago, right, Vince?
That was before my time.
Yeah. All right. This is my time.
But we did have a newsletter. I know last year we were doing it, that was going out to the seniors. So maybe that's something that we can start back up, Kevin?
Yeah, I'd like to see them come to the school and see the kids' events.
Okay, all right, so.
If possible.
Yeah, we can,
Maybe that's something the ad hoc can talk about as well, too. Reaching out for events like that.
Rather than just talking about their meetings and trips. More engaged as a board and a school district with our senior citizen community.
all right, thank you. Allison, anything for State and County School Board Association? There's a lot.
I have no updates.
Not? Oh,
No.
no updates, okay.
No,
All right.
everything's the
Yeah,
same.
everything's-
I do have a question, though. Do we know what the movie is?
Vinny asked me that.
Oh,
No.
very good.
Sorry.
It's what?
Oh, Zootopia? Okay.
Utopia?
Glad you guys are on it.
Okay.
I am not a good committee
Zootopia.
rep,
I was like,
apparently.
Utopia, what's that? Zootopia.
It's
Okay.
Zootopia.
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 Very good, thank you.
Yes. All right, and that brings us to our superintendent's report. Mary Jane?
Thank you. I just want to echo the sentiments for the start of the school year. Thanks everyone for their patience. We've had 2 very successful and well-attended back-to-school nights here at the Conover campus, with our last one tomorrow night at Cedar Drive Middle School. Much thanks and appreciation to our staff who put a lot of time and effort into preparing for these annual opportunities for first impressions, face-to-face impressions with parents. And thank you for our parents who navigate the hallways and appreciate all the time and work that goes into that. We look forward to our upcoming parent-teacher conferences, which are scheduled for October 21st through the 24th, which is really a great time for parents to connect on an individual level. Back-to-school days are kind of like the introduction, right? And then the parent-teacher conferences are really a time for face-to-face contact. That said, you don't have to wait. If you have a question or if you have any type of information you're looking for or concern, you don't have to wait for parent-teacher conferences. We're always available. Your teachers have emails and reach out accordingly if you need something in the interim. Wednesday, September 15th was the first general PTO meeting for the 24-25 school year. It was very well attended, and I give it, for everyone and talk everyone. The administration comes, we talk, give a little bit of an update as to things that are happening throughout the district, introductions and whatnot, so it was a great time. I just want to remind everyone that next week the district is closed on Thursday, October 3rd and 4th for Rosh Hashanah, okay? The first full week of October, October 7th through the 11th, is the Week of Respect, and the Week of Respect is designated in actually 18A, and in order for the school districts to recognize the importance of character education, all school districts in the state of New Jersey are actually required to observe by providing age-appropriate instruction focusing on the prevention of harassment, intimidation, and bullying. Throughout the school year, the school district shall provide ongoing age-appropriate instruction on preventing harassment, intimidation, and bullying in accordance with our curriculum. So that's coming up, and more information about specific activities and ways that we're doing so will be forthcoming from the building principals. Letting everyone know that also October is Fire Prevention Month, and I was contacted by Mr. Alan Ryan, who wanted to once again, I don't know if anyone remembers last year, he came and talked about his experiences here in the district. We're trying to reconnect him again with the buildings, the scheduled time. It's always a great day when the fire trucks show up. The kids have a great time. The kids love it. Also yesterday, again, reiterating the strong, positive partnership that we have with Bolton Neck Township Police. The principals and I sat in on interviews for their SLEO. We have a vacancy coming through, so we feel like the police did a great job of finding a great partner to replace Scott Pavonis, who left us. I did. So I think we'll be pleasantly, just really appreciate the time and effort that from the Colts Neck Police, who, worked really hard to find, a replacement for us here in a very timely fashion, too. And that concludes my superintendent's report.
Thank you very much. All right, so that will bring us to our comments from attending constituents on all subjects. So kind of a new format here, everyone. If you are going to stand up, as always, please stand, state your name and your address for the record, but also we're going to ask you to stand at that microphone so that everyone on our live stream can hear you. And if it's green, the way mine is right now, you're on. If it's not, you are not on. And to turn it on, you're just going to tap the little rectangular button on the bottom. So at this time, are there any comments from attending constituents? All right, I'll say the same thing next week or next meeting. All right, so seeing that there are no comments from attending constituents, we will move on to our action items. And so I'm looking for a motion to move action items 1, 2, and 3 on the agenda.
Motion.
All right. Any questions or comments about action items 1, 2, or 3? All right, being that there are none, Vince, may I please have a roll call?
Yes. Mrs. Denoya.
Yes.
Mrs. Dillon.
Yes.
Mrs. Dimes.
Yes.
Mr. Rico.
Yes.
Mrs. Ramirez.
Yes.
Mr. Rignetta.
Yes.
Mrs. Volpe.
Yes.
Mr. Walsh. Yes. Mr. Whitberg.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you. Just a reminder to board members, please click your little button on when you go to say your vote. This way, again, anyone on live stream can hear you. All right, I am looking for a motion to move items 1 and 2 under buildings and ground safety and security.
Motion.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments about buildings and ground safety and security items 1 or 2? I just want to say thank you to Vince for providing us with some background for that so that we have a good understanding for some of those items. So thank you for that. All right, any other questions or comments? All right, Vince, may I please have a roll call?
Yes, you may. Buildings and grounds, items 1 through 2. Mrs. Denoya.
Yes.
Mrs. Dillon.
Yes.
Mrs. Dimes.
Yes.
Mr. Rico.
Yes.
Mrs. Ramirez.
Yes.
Mr. Rignetta.
Yes.
Mrs. Volpe.
Yes.
Mr. Walsh.
Yes.
Mr. Whitberg.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much. All right, I am looking for a motion to move items 1 through 4 under curriculum.
Motion. Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments about items 1 through 4 under curriculum?
Yes, I have a comment. I know we don't have our computers in front of us, so I'm just going to use my phone. I like to abstain from the bottom portion of this, the workshop reimbursements. I like to, abstain. I just want to make a comment. As much as I always appreciate the value of personal development, I just want to remind the board going forward, we have to remain cognizant of, what we put on, what we put in our contracts and what we make the taxpayer liable for. So, just going forward, when we do update contracts, I'd like to review what is exactly included with reimbursable expenses. So I'm just going to refrain from that section at the bottom.
Okay, so I'm sorry, you're recusing or you're abstaining?
I'm abstaining.
You're abstaining from it. Okay. And just to clarify, I know that a lot of information was given to the board via email about the reimbursables, as well as in Mary Jane's weekly updates that she provides our board with. So all of that information, including legal opinions, several legal opinions, is still not enough information.
Yeah, I'm
for you.
still going to abstain. Yeah,
Okay.
I read through
I just want to make sure
and
that
I do
you,
understand, so I figured instead of voting either way, I'd rather just abstain at this time. And then, like I said, moving forward, I hope that the board reconsiders, especially people that, ran on, fiscal responsibility and administration expenses and all, to reevaluate the contracts and, just be cognizant of what we're, putting on the taxpayer.
Absolutely. I would like to just say that.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Some of the contracts that Angelique is referring to, just so that everyone is clear, these are contracts that are currently in place from 2022, they started? Am I right on that? For some of the CNTAA ones?
The 3-year contracts.
Right.
So some are in their first year, some are in their
Second year,
yeah.
it's 2024, right?
And some are annual.
And some are annual, right. But what I was going to also say was that some of them we did just approve
Yes,
this
I
year.
actually know, yeah.
And I believe, if my memory serves me well, we did have a unanimous vote on at least one of those contracts for everyone that's sitting on this board, with the exception of Mr. Wickberg. And so I just want to put that out there, that some of those
Yeah,
things were voted on.
I don't want to say anything too,
Yeah.
personal, but.
Yeah, no,
I'll leave it at that, but I, in the contracts that were done already, I think there was negotiation with that in
Yes.
mind, so.
Yeah.
That's what I understood, so.
Understood.
Point of clarification, I'm unclear as to where there would be an abstaining. Is that one under curriculum?
There's an attachment, we don't have our laptops, but,
It's one of the
yeah, but
curriculum.
there's.
Okay,
yeah, but I don't
thank
want-
you.
yeah.
It's one
Thank
under
you.
curriculum.
Yep.
All right, any other questions or comments? All right, being that there are none, Vince, may I please have a roll call on that?
Yes, curriculum and instruction 1 through 4. Mrs. Denoy.
Yes.
Thank you. Mrs. Dillon.
Yes.
Mrs. Dimes.
Yes.
Mr. Arico.
Yes.
Mrs. Ramirez.
Yes.
Mr. Rignetta.
Yes.
Mrs. Volpe.
Abstain.
1
For-
through 4.
Oh, I'm sorry, no, just, yes on that, and then abstain from the rest. Sorry about that.
Stand on one.
Thank you. Mr. Walsh.
Yes.
Mr. Wickberg.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carried.
Thank you very much. All right, Vincent, I'm looking for a motion to move finance items 1 through 6 on the agenda.
Motion.
Oh. There we go.
Second.
It's the longest motion in second ever. Okay. Any questions for finance items 1 through 6 on the agenda? No? All right. Being that there are none, Vincent, please have, oh, I'm so sorry. Did I have any? Yeah, no, I asked that. I asked that. Yes, no questions. But did I have something? No, I did not have anything to say. All right, can I please have a roll call, Vince?
Yes, finance items 1 through 6. Mrs. Denoy.
Yes.
Mrs. Dillon.
Yes.
Mrs. Dimes.
Yes.
Mr. Arico.
Yes.
Mrs. Ramirez.
Yes.
Mr. Rignetta.
Yes.
Mrs. Volpe.
Yes.
Mr. Walsh.
Yes.
And Mr. Whitberg.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carried.
Thank you. All right. Mrs. Dillon, I am looking for a motion to move policy items 1 and 2 on the agenda.
Motion.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for policy items number 1 or 2? Oh, all right. May I please have a roll call?
Yes, policy 1 through 2. Mrs. Denoy.
Okay. I am a yes on 2, and on number 1, I am a no on attachment 13, and a yes on the rest.
Meaning yes on the other attachments. P.
P13.
Correct.
P
1 through 12, yes, 13, no.
Thank you. Mrs. Dillon.
Yes.
Mrs. Dimes.
Yes.
Mr. Arico.
Yes.
Mrs. Ramirez.
Yes.
Mr. Rignetta.
Yes.
Mrs. Volpe.
Yes.
Mr. Walsh.
Yes.
Mr. Wickberg.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carried.
Thank you. I am looking for a motion to move items 1 through 29 under personnel.
Motion.
Second.
Thank you. And questions or comments for personnel items 1 through 29?
I just have a question on 21. I'm assuming that it's okay for us to approve ourselves as volunteers, or do we need to?
Good question.
You would probably want to recuse yourself
Mhm.
because there are certain liabilities and whatnot that you,
Yes.
that you would be entitled to, correct?
So that would be for myself and
Mrs.
Mrs. Volpe?
Yes.
Correct, yes.
Thank you
You
for
wanna recuse yourself.
clarifying.
For number 21, Mrs. Volpe.
21
Yes.
is our Stokes trip.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Sorry,
No, that's good.
yes.
We're saying that, Amy. Yes.
All right. All right. Any other questions or comments? All right. Ms. May, please have a roll call.
Yes, personnel items 1 through 29. Mrs. Denoya,
Yes.
Mrs. Dillon,
Yes.
Mrs. Dimes,
Yes, 1 through 20, recuse on 21, and yes for 22 through 29.
thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Arico,
Yes.
Mrs. Ramirez,
Yes.
Mr. Regnetta,
Due to my employment, New Jersey Disability and Family Leave, I'm going to have to recuse from 7, 9, and 11. And yes to all the others.
thank you. Mrs. Volpe,
Yes to all, recuse for 21.
thank you. Mr. Walsh,
Yes.
Mr. Wickberg,
Yes.
thank you. The motion did carry.
Thank you very much. So that brings us to our new business portion of the agenda. Oh, yes, I'm going to pause for 1 second.
Can we do another roll call for personnel for Mr. Walsh, please?
We sure can. Can I do another roll call for just that item?
Yes.
Can you do just that item?
I'm
Okay.
sorry. Yeah.
Correction, Mr. Walsh on,
I need to recuse myself from 21 since Angie's going on that trip. But she won't be around for a couple of days, so it should be
I
okay.
bet you're happy, dear.
Thank you. All right, so that brings us to our new business section. So something I did just want to say for clarification. So I stated earlier during my president's report, as I've stated a couple other times during other meetings, that we will no longer be meeting as small committees. However, there is one exception to that, and I apologize. Our ad hoc committee will still meet for that. That is typical for committees of a whole to still have their ad hoc meetings if as needed. If they can be brought into the meeting, we can still do that, but ad hoc can. Yes, I'm going to do that too. And if we do also need to make an ad hoc committee for something, we can also choose to do that during our committee of a whole meeting. So let's say we did need to have a separate committee meeting for a smaller reason. There could be various reasons for that I won't get into now, but there could be that. But again, typically the committees that we have historically seen on this agenda technically don't really exist anymore. The committee chairs do exist, but the committees do not. Do you want to add to that at all? No? Okay. All right. And I would also like to bring up now our student representatives. So Angelique.
Sorry, so one
yes,
question
so sorry.
with the ad hoc, so that's to
Yes.
clarify. Will just those ad hoc meetings that could be private, will just be the chair of that, or?
No, that should be the full committee,
Full
the ad
committees.
hoc full committee.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you for the clarification. So Angelique and Allison, you did meet with the student representatives this morning. So I would just like to hear an update on all of that from the two of you.
Well, I'll have Dr. Garabay, she prepared something, and then I just want to make a couple comments.
Okay.
But, yeah, I'd like to pass it to her.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good with that?
Sure. Mrs. Genoya? Okay. All right, present at the meeting, we met at 8:15, bright and early this morning, Cedar Drive time. And present were our returning student representatives to the board, Maureen McCormick, Tyler Scherzen, Christopher Siniglia, Jillian DeSalvatore, and Emmanuel Diener. And Angelique Volpe, Allison Zenoya, myself, and Dr. Rigby had joined us for the meeting. We began the meeting by sharing information and ideas previously discussed back in August. Remember, there was an update. We met in August. Mrs. Volpe, Mrs. Denoya, Dr. Rigby, and I, to kind of say how can we provide more structure to the student representatives program, and how can we support them in turning the ideas that they're sharing at the board meeting into actionable items and support them in doing so. That we had shared that the initial plan, Mrs. Volpe had shared that the initial plan was to kind of hear the ideas and have the board work directly. But then we realized that there's a little bit of there's a break in that communication, right? So if we can channel that back at the building and start it at the building, then they would be actually coming to the board meetings to share out the progress that they've made on attaining their goals and bringing their ideas to fruition. It was well stated by Mrs. Volpe and Mrs. Denoya shared, and we all nodded our head. We never want students to be disappointed, and we use the example that if for some reason, an idea comes to mind from a student representative that may want a pool in the Peace Garden of Cedar Drive, that might not be something we can do, and here's the reasons why. But we may be able to, think of different ideas. Painting of a cafeteria. We gave several examples for the students. So what we've done is we're going to be moving forward with a type of form that our student representatives are going to use as their point of initial contact with the administration at the building level, who will then be communicating it with us, with me, and our board to kind of say, here are ideas that are in play, and then we can help them put into strategies communicating with their classmates and action items, budgeting, fundraising, all of the things that they can do, reaching out for community support to be able to bring their ideas to fruition. We used the idea because it was brought up, I believe, by Tyler or Sean last year about painting the cafeteria. That was an idea, and that was one we came back to. So instead of it being a student, this is my color, we want it to be lime green. Well, their classmates might not want lime green, but let's talk about it. So how can they solicit and gather input from their classmates to make a decision, informed decision, and have the recommendation from the student body as to what color the cafeteria is going to be. So putting that into place is that's the structure that we're working on for them. We did talk about the number of participants. So there was a conversation and a thought kind of shared regarding we had 9, is that a good number because there's 9 board members? Do we expand that? There was a little bit of talk of possibly expanding, but I think at the end the consensus was let's keep it at the 9. That said, over the summer, Mrs. Volpe and we all agreed, keeping with the 5 that are coming back, returning, 4 moved on to their high schools, keeping the 5 from September through December, we would keep them in place. And then moving into January, we would solicit for 4 seats, I guess you would say, as student representatives to the board. And also, if any of the students at that time who have been representatives feel like they can no longer, make the commitment or they have things that they're doing, that it's okay for them to move on too. But they can resign from the seat, from the student representatives. But that said, we also said that part of their planning and work this year could be transitioning, right? It's a case of they can become mentors to students who are what the board is about, the different ideas, and so on. So I think we have a nice formulation, a nice plan in place, the communication, and Dr. Rigby and I are excited to be working it and bringing the kids. And then this way their reports to the board will be more about what they're doing and how they're doing it and updates on the different things that they're working on. So, and that, I think, encompasses all, unless they want to add something.
I just want to thank all of you for coming, Mrs. Denoy. I thought it was a great experience for us. I know you're very, interested in being a part of that, and I do appreciate it. This was something I was thinking about a long time, even before I was on the board. And I know you and Dr. Rigby, it is time-consuming, and there is a lot of work, more than I expected, that needs to be put into this. But I do think it's going to make a difference in these kids' lives, and I do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just have one other comment to add. I think the kids seemed very excited about the structure that we're putting in place and their ideas. Hopefully, potentially an idea or 2 or 3 may come to fruition, right? And so to see these things happen and how it has to happen in a school district, because there are regulations and restrictions and all sorts of compliance rules that we have to abide by, and so it's going to be a process, and there'll be bumps along the way. But I think overall, we had a really good meeting this morning, and the kids seem excited and energized for this. So it's awesome.
That's very cool. Thank you, ladies.
I forgot when I walked in, I didn't have anything for that, but
Can I ask a question about, so was there a discussion, are they going to be expected to be at the COW and the RAM meetings, or will it be one or the other?
We did speak about that. I think the consensus was for them to come to the shorter of the two meetings and almost have that time how we used to have in the agendas reserved for them during presentation updates from student representatives. And if they're working on specific projects, we can actually be a little bit more specific. We also touched on mentoring. And I think this was something that you had alluded to with the board, Mrs. Ramirez too, that we know that all board members were assigned mentors. We all know that they have different levels. We all have different levels of commitment and ability to be available to students when they're available, right? I think that that's something as well. So I think that one of the things that Mr. Wickbird, you can jump in as well in your time here too with us, that I think that they had talked about, is there a consensus from the board that, you know, whether Mrs. Volpe or specific board members, Ms. Denoya, she stays on, or whoever, would be more of the primary contact for the board, for the students, and, or would it remain as a type of mentoring of all board members? So that might be something that would come to the board for further discussion.
Yeah, I think perhaps during our next committee of a whole meeting, we discuss that in a little bit more detail. But I think for now, you two ladies have kind of jumped in and volunteered for that. So if you would like to continue to volunteer for it and no one else on the board has any opposition to it, / if anyone else would like to be part of it, as long as we're not a quorum, that's absolutely appropriate as well. So we could have up to 2 other additional board members be part of that for now. If we would like to assign specific mentors like we had initially in the beginning of the year, I think we can discuss that again at the next committee of a whole meeting in more detail, what that would look like, what it would entail for each one of us to take that on, or if we want it to just remain, you know, 1 board member as the main point person for them, or 2, or however many it's going to be. So, any questions about that? Make sense? All right. Thank you very much for that update. Angelique and Allison, thank you so much for being there this morning, bright and early. Any other new business for us to discuss? Look at this, guys. We're out of here before 8:30. All right. Motion to adjourn our meeting.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thank you so much for being here, everyone.